Hey everyone, welcome to Positive Partners, and on this episode we're going to talk about going places in your car or truck or whatever with your best friend, your dog. So stay tuned. Hey, glad you could stick with us. Tom is not here for this episode, so I'm going to take over, and we're going to talk about going places with your favorite dogs. And it's something I do quite a bit of because one of the things that makes life enjoyable is sharing experiences, and not only sharing experiences with your family, but your animal friends. Taking walks in the woods and letting them be dogs. That's part of going for walks, is letting them be dogs and explore, and exploring for you, and seeing new things. Going to the store, there are a certain amount of stores that will accept dogs. A lot of those are hardware stores, Lowe's or those type of places. Generally not places with food, unless your dog is a registered service animal. So I wouldn't take them into Walmart or something like that that has groceries. But there are places that have outdoor service, restaurants with picnic tables and stuff, and you could go and take your dog to eat with you if you can be outside at like a picnic table or a outside bistro or something. But check with those people first. But in order to get there, we have to get in the car or truck and get there. And number one is safety, and the safety for you and your dog. Say if there's an accident, you don't want your beloved pet getting hit in the face with an airbag, or you don't want them hitting you in the back of the head. If you hit something in the front, you don't want a 100-pound dog, hitting you in the back. Plus, or if you're rolling, you want to look out for them so they don't get injured. So there are several ways to keep everyone safe. I've got a first couple pictures here of people not doing that. And according to American Humane Association, 100,000 dogs die in pickups. We're just riding untethered in the back of a pickup every year. That's pretty sad. I would not trust my dog in the back of a pickup unless it's just around the farm or, somewhere where we're just creeping around. But, they can jump out. If you get hit, go around the corner, they weren't expecting it, and they fall out. And it probably wouldn't end well. And there's a horrifying picture that I found on the internet with somebody that left a dog back out on their hitch in a dog crate. It's just awful, not just for the safety aspect of being, hit in the rear, or how scared, dogs are the mental age of about a 4-year-old. How would your 4-year-old feel like going 70 miles an hour close to the ground amongst traffic? I bet that dog is scared. Plus, the exhaust fumes that coming out of this. If he didn't die from it, I'm sure he was sick. And I just don't understand people like that. And that is not what you want to do. That's stupid, to say the least. So I've got a few shots here. If you want to keep them in the car, which you should, because they are your family, this is a nice option. It's a plastic or a metal crate that goes in the back of your car, and they have them split into twos for 2 dogs so they don't get into fights or whatever, or 1 if he's big. There's the two dogs, and I see a little flap that you can put down so they can jump out. Now, I had a little accident with one of mine. His nail got stuck in the latch. I think it pulled the nail out, so that was not real fun. So watch the latch at the bottom of your tailgate for them. But this is something good that will keep them out of your hair, because they need to stay in the back seat or somewhere else and not in your lap. Your lap is not the right place for a dog going down the highway. And you have padded crates. These are a decent option. Keep them secured, and you should kind of secure these things into the car so it's not flying around in case of an accident. And this is a soft crate, which is I kind of like, because they wouldn't hit anything hard and it wouldn't hurt if something happened, but it would keep them in their area, and they could sleep. They got a nice soft bed, and it's well ventilated. I think that's a really good option there. But again, it should be secured in the car so it doesn't move from where it's at. If you're not going to have them in a crate, then you could have them in the back seat, and a couple things to protect your seats, because, you know, say like if you took them walking in the woods or, you know, anywhere, their feet could get muddy and mess up your leather, your cloth seats. So this is a nice thing here, and you got a little pouch there for treats or toys, and you can see the dog is secured by the seat belt to a harness. And harnesses are a good thing to have. Like I said, you don't want them going into the front compartment and trying to sit on your lap when you're trying to drive down the road. This is another option. They have many sizes of these. If you're going down the road, the dog, it's a great adventure for them, and this will boost them up so they can look out the window. So they really like to share that going down the road thing with you. This is another option to separate the rear compartment from the front, and I don't think they would have these for my car, but in SUVs they would have these options too, and you got a little gate so you could say hi to them, give them some water or some treats or something. And here's a tether to seat belt, and this is more or less how I would probably do it myself if I had them in the back seat, so they could lay down and, you know, relax. But in the case of an accident, you would have a hold of more than just their neck. I mean, you can imagine, you know, you get bruised a lot by just a seat belt and a shoulder strap. Now imagine if it's just a thing around your neck. You're going to like kill your dog if you get into a wreck and you just have them tethered by the collar. So this is a really good idea. And this is another dog with the same sort of thing, tethered with the seat belts and a full body harness. That harness probably covers more area than the other one did. And like I said, the pickup thing is not a great thing, but if you have to, you could tether them to that area. And what they're talking about is this tether that goes between the left and right, and harness them to that, and make sure that they cannot get over the side of the bed. I left one of my dogs inside my Land Rover, which is sort of like a Jeep, and had the leash attached to something inside, but the leash reached outside the door, so I told him to stay, and by the time I got to the door, he jumped out, and then he's hanging there by his collar. So I had to run back and go get him. So you have to watch out for those sort of things, especially a choker collar. And then you could put their crates in the back. I'm not sure if these look like pretty substantial crates, just not your home type crates, because they've got locks. You don't want anybody stealing your dogs. and these are tethered or strapped down to the truck, so that if the truck did flip or do something, they're not going to be flying through the air either. So that's a little bit of safety. You don't want them in your area, and you don't want them coming into your area in case of an accident. Going for car rides, you know, if they're puppies or if it's a newly rehomed dog, you might want to try them out and see how they handle it. Some dogs will get motion sickness and get sick in your car, and that's no fun. That can spoil a trip real quick. So you want to introduce them to the car, maybe going on a short little trip, you know, just a mile down the road and back, and give them some treats. This is great, and see how they handle it. Then go maybe 5 miles or 10 or 20 and build up their tolerance for that. You know, usually I'm really no farther than 5 or so, but we have went for walks up at Old Man's Cave with a couple of the dogs, so they took that long trip. But one of ours is pretty scared of traffic, and so ended up in my wife's lap, which again is not a big something you want to do. So we had to secure them in the back so they wouldn't come up in front. So introduce them slowly, see if they can tolerate going for car rides. One of the worst things, my sister had picked up a dog alongside the road and was taking it home, and it got sick. And since it was a dog that was found along the road, it had eaten something dead alongside the road, and all of that ended up in the seat, which was no fun to clean up. Also, as I say a lot of times on this show, tired dogs are good dogs. So instead of starting your trip with a fresh, highly energetic puppy, why don't you take them for a walk first? Put a couple miles on, and then they'll be wanting to just lay down and rest when they get into the car, and there'll be a lot less trouble instead of bouncing off the walls. So tired dogs are good dogs at home and anywhere else, including the car. So exercise is good. And if you're starting out on a long trip, depending on how your dog can handle it, and even if they don't get sick on car rides, I probably wouldn't feed them very much. I might feed them a quarter to a half of what they normally have. And keep water and food with you. If you're on a longer trip, you're going to want to take some breaks. You know, going to stopping at gas stations or rest areas. A lot of rest areas have places designated for dogs, so adhere to those rules. Have some bags of some sort to pick up if they do go to the bathroom, and have a collapsible bowl or something where you can put some water in that they are familiar with and can get a drink. Just like you get a little dehydrated on the road, and they probably need a drink also. And if you're traveling, you may stop at a drive-through restaurant and get some, you know, if they don't have their own food, I've stopped and got them some chicken nuggets or whatever and shared them in the car, and I would not have left them in the car by themselves. I usually if they're with me, I'm with them. Taking often breaks, you know, is not only good for them, but it's also good for you. You know, the blood pools in your legs on long trips, and it wouldn't hurt that every hour or two you stop and get out and walk around. It'll be good for you and them, and you know, and healthy. Then you can get a drink and relax and make the whole trip a nice thing. If your dog does get sick, I would go see the vet and have something prescribed that may decrease the possibility of getting car sick, you know, like a Dramamine kind of thing. But have your vet prescribe something, because their chemical system is a lot different than yours. The things that we may take for being car sick are not the same things as the dog. So get them their own thing. Don't give your dog things that you would take. So get the advice of your vet. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Let the vet tell you what to do. Older dogs. One of my dogs is getting older, and I had another one with some hip issues. Jumping up into the car and jumping out of the car may be hard on him. Mine has arthritis, I think, in the front legs. I haven't done the x-rays, but I can just tell the way he favors legs and the way he moves. He probably has arthritis. And the other dog, we have had x-rays and does have hip problems. So jumping and leaping into the car has gotten hard for one of them, and jumping out has gotten hard. Well, I have to lift up one of them. And we've got a video. We bought a ramp so that it wouldn't be hard on our guys to get in and out of the car. So this is a ramp. It collapses. You can put it in your SUV, and my car is a two-door VW Golf, so it's a small car, but you want to secure this ramp in the car so you take curves so the ramp doesn't fall into the dogs. So let's run that footage. So this is Oliver. Well, this is me, but I'm getting the car ready to take Oliver for a ride, and this is the ramp. And the ramp has like a sandy surface to it, so that it's not slippery. And it's not slippery in wet conditions either. So I prepare the car and the ramp, make sure it's secure, and then I go get Oliver and I make sure and get some treats. If he's not familiar with it and he doesn't know what the deal is with it, you can lead him up the ramp with the treat and put him in the car. And then he gets the treat, so he's satisfied, and now we can put the ramp away. And we've had this on our back deck too, because one of our guys couldn't take stairs very well, so it's dual purpose. I can have this coming off the deck, I can have this for the car or the pickup that's behind it. And his problem is arthritis in the front legs, so leaping out of the car and landing on his two front legs is kind of somewhat painful. And he can't get up in the car without me grabbing his rear legs and helping him up. So that comes in pretty handy. So this would be after we get back from our trip. He knows what the deal is. And so put the ramp down and lead him out in a controlled way. And I did this without going on a trip, and you may see him not really wanting to leave the car because we didn't go for the ride. Good boy. So he's like, nope, you tricked me. I'm getting back in the car because you didn't take me for a ride. Plus he doesn't mind going up and down this ramp. He thinks it's kind of fun. Some dogs are a little scared of it because it's a different sound. And the feeling on their nails might be a little weird, so you might have to give them some pretty high value treats to get them up and down that, sometimes, at least at first. And then once they get familiar with the ramp means something cool, then they'll go up and down it no problem. So if your dogs have some sort of a problem with leaping or jumping out, ramps come in real handy. Always take your collar and your leash. You don't want to get the. I would leave the leash on the dog, probably in the car, just so if something happened and they got away from you in some way, somebody can grab the leash and get them back to you. Like I said, you don't want to leave the dog or anybody, your child, your cat, or whatever, in the car, because temperatures or at least in the summer, can rise very rapidly. And then you'll find if there's a good Samaritan around, you'll find a broken window in your car outside. I mean, your dog outside the car, because they can expire rather quickly. The temperatures can rise, and it can be very unsafe, and you can lose your dog that way, and then you will look like a dirtbag. So don't leave your dog in a hot car, or even in the shade. Really, the cars can heat up just about anywhere. In the wintertime, the biggest thing you would see is they'll fog up the interior of your car. We had a question: which is easy, small dogs or large dogs in traveling? I don't really see a big difference. The only difference may be you could pick up the small dog to put him in the car, and the large dog you're going to assist at the most, and you'll rely on them to get in and out the most. Putting their head out the window. Dogs love to put their heads out the window and smell the different places you're going. Their nose is very sensitive, and they use that as much as their eyes as far as identifying places. When I open the door to the car, before they even leap out, they stick their nose out and they'll smell the air, and it's like, have we been here before, and is this safe? So the only thing I would say about letting them put their heads out the window is I would put the window down far enough to let their nose or their head out, but not big enough to where they could leap out, because if they're not tethered, you don't want the dog just jumping out of the car. They should be tethered, but I wouldn't let it down any more than that. Harnesses for what?
For 2 dogs.
2 dogs. Oh yeah. Well, you would just for 2 dogs, they would just be in one seat and the other one in the other seat, or one in the front seat, one in the back seat. But you may want to turn off your airbag, because any of my dogs, they're like 50 to 60 pounds up to 150. They will turn on, the seat in a car has a weight sensor, and whenever somebody sits in the front seat, the car knows it, and the airbag comes on, or even the seatbelt warning light, because hey, there's somebody in the front seat, we want to have the seatbelt on. So I would try, if you can, turn that stuff off if they happen to come in the front seat, or you have them tethered.
Can they sit up front with you? Can dogs sit up front with you?
The question is, can the dog sit up front? If you turn off the airbag, I don't see a problem with it, but have them tethered or somehow put in the other seat so that they can't jump in your lap. Rosalind, one of ours, gets scared by trucks, and she just wants to be near you in some way, or she'll hide in the floorboards. But you don't want to be going down the road at 70 miles an hour and a 70-pound dog jump in your lap and send you off the roadway. So number one is safety. I did not research if there's any state laws about governing dogs in cars or trucks or anything, but I do know that there are best practices. So like I said before, turn off your airbag, because I'm not sure how a dog would handle getting hit by a full force airbag. That may hurt them. So we can go over the list again. Remember, safety. You don't want them in your area, and you want them in their area, and you want them tied down in some way, and not by a collar, by more of a harness that holds them by their body, not their head. Introduce them. You want to introduce them to the car and the cage, just like you do if you were crate training them. short periods at first and extend that. Exercise, you could use it too, I'm sure. Exercise the dog before you go on a trip so that they are more tired and will lay down and are calm and they're not bouncing off the walls. Small meals or no food, depending on the length of the travel. I know with my large dogs, you know, Great Danes, I've got Bernese, and you know, they're Pyrenees. Big dogs have a higher likelihood, or big-chested dogs have a higher likelihood of bloat. And it's good to know the symptoms of bloat. That's where they've gulped a lot of food and air. Both of my Bernese Mountain Dogs had bloat, and luckily we caught it and we got the surgery, so they didn't die from it, because they can die within 24 hours. The same thing, I don't take them on walks to prevent bloat. I don't take them on walks after they've eaten for like hour and a half. And I don't feed them when I come home from a walk. So like we went for a ride and we went around the woods or something, and we'll talk about ticks in a different episode. I think there's some previous episodes talking about ticks. But within a half an hour, 40 minutes of coming back from a ride, I don't feed them so that they don't get bloat. So that's important for your big guys or your large chested dogs. Don't give your dogs people medicines for motion sickness. Check with your vet. Remember food and water for breaks. Take off breaks often and walks. Do short trips at first. Ramps for older dogs or ones that can't make it into the car. Remember your collars and leashes, and preferably not choker collars, and take them with you so you're ready to get them out of the car, or somebody can retrieve them if they get away from you. And never leave them in a hot car. So that is the rundown on going places with your dog. So I hope you have a great time taking your friends with you to outdoor restaurants or to the store, or walks on different pieces of property, national parks or wherever. Make sure you can take them to all these places. Check with those people and parks first. Everybody's got rules. And have a great time and have a safe time, and take care and enjoy the time you have with your dog. And thanks for watching Pawsitive Partners, and we'll see you next month.